Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Dr. Minette Riordan having a little technical challenges this morning, but welcome to Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. It's the nature of a live show that not everything goes perfectly, and super excited and happy to be here with all of you this morning for some gel printing fun. So this month I know, here I am. So I came on, I had no microphone and I had to go off and come back again. But I'm glad you found me. So thank you for everyone's patience. Excited to be with you guys this morning. And all month long, we've been making paper dolls, intuitive paper dolls that are designed to represent aspects of ourselves or perhaps a muse or the energy that we want to embody or something that we aspire towards. And this morning, I thought I would take a break from making paper dolls and make from the dolls themselves and make some hand printed fabric. Hey, Leslie, good morning. I love it when you get up early to come and play with me. I wish you were coming to play in October because Tori's going to be here too, and it would be fun to have us all together live in person. And for anybody that's listening, I do have an in-person retreat happening in Estes Park, Colorado, October 3rd to 6th. Early bird pricing actually ends today. And I have 4 spots left. So super excited. We have an amazing group of women gathering so far and super excited to play. But today I want to do some gel printing on fabric and on a variety of different papers. And I'm thinking about some of the different things that would make clothes in terms of patterns and colors and what that might look like. We also have our online mini mythical makeover experience happening not this coming weekend but next weekend, where we're also making paper dolls and we're going to be making magic cloaks, so some of my fabric might get used for that. But I needed some fresh inspiration in what I was putting on the dolls that wasn't just paper or pre-printed things, but something that felt a little more personal and my own. And let me go ahead and change my camera over here. And I have a huge pile of stuff in front of me that I want to play with. Good morning, Judy. So this is a part of just a cheap canvas bag left over from some event. I don't even know where the bag came from, but it ended up in my stash, so I cut it up to use this morning. I found this oriental drawing paper, which is really lovely, almost like a rice paper. Um, has a really nice texture. I found this partial package at a resale store. It's fabulous for gel printing on, and it's textured on one side and smooth on one side. So any kind of paper can work for gel printing as well as fabric. Now, I have not ever gel printed on fabric, so it feels like that's going to be the place I want to start and have some fun. I have some newsprint here. I was going through my stash, and this is just like a pad of note paper that was, I don't even know where it came from. It's the perfect size and quality for gel printing. You don't want to use really thick, expensive papers on the gel print. This is great to use scrap paper, recycled paper, junk mail, even for playing with, but lighter weight paper is better because it's better for collage. I was messing around with making some bags and for the fall retreat, and so this one was way too narrow, but I thought, okay, I can gel paint it up, cut it up again, and use it in my doll making or use this stuff in something. I love using fabric in collage. I've got a few different stencils. I went through that gorgeous stash of papers from my friend Lainey and pulled out, there's some book pages, a bunch of the ones that were super textured. I'm super curious to see how these beautiful papers, and don't worry, I have lots of these papers in all these colors, so I don't feel like I'm wasting these. Plus they might be even more pretty once they get all painty, but I think they're going to make some great texture for our gel printing. I have some book pages are great to print on, plus they're great for cleaning off your brayer. I pulled out a few other things that we might play with, and I might just stick with the papers this morning. We'll kind of see where we get to. And where the heck, oh my gosh, I'm so hilarious. I left the gel print sitting on the other bookshelf, so I'll be right back. So gel plates come in all different sizes. I have all different sizes, and I grabbed a couple of just 5x7 ones to play with this morning. I also, so anybody that knows me well knows I am a coffee addict, and we often buy coffee in bulk at Sprouts. These nice paper bags are plastic lined on the inside, and they make great pallets. Plus, for at least a little while, it still smells like coffee, which makes me happy. Just cutting the bottom and the little folder off on the top. And here I have this fabulous palette for putting my paint on. I like that it's movable. The butcher paper works well also, but what I really like is for this is something that I can move out of the way. Try to move all my computer parts out of the way. Metal ones would work as well. Let's see, I'm going to stick these just on the corners. So I have a variety of acrylic paints in some bright colors. I was feeling like bright colors today. Also thinking it might be fun to do some metallics. So I have a nice speedball brayer. I don't even know if this one's hardly ever been used. And I have a much smaller beloved one as well. So if you're new to gel printing, it is an addiction. Once you get started, you can't stop. And you usually end up producing a lot of pages wondering, what am I going to do with all of this? Well, my inspiration will be to use these in collage, either of my paper dolls or of in my art journaling. So notice how grungy and dirty this is. That's great. It makes for more interesting gel printing when we're not super worried. Trying to make that a little straighter on the camera. Oh well, it is what it is. And I love when it picks up these little bits and pieces of things. So this is a small one, which is going to work better on the camera. I'm going to zoom in on that gel plate just a little bit more. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to do the weird focusy thing. So we're not looking at a blurry screen, because I don't know about you, but me and blurry screens are not so happy. And it's been a while since I got my jelly plate out and played with it. Tori, I'm thinking we might have some fun with jelly printing on Sunday as well when you come down to play. It's so exciting to get to see people that I never see in person. And I'm going to start with some of these fun pages. And I might even just start with a single color and see what happens. So if you're new to gel printing, the biggest trick was, well, there were two that I've learned that made a big difference. One was really keeping those layers of paint thin. You do not need a lot of a lot of paint on these, and being patient to wait for things to dry. So also like to keep book pages around. Great for, look at that pretty color, great for cleaning off your brayer. And I think I can probably get 2 different ones on here. And what I'm looking for here is just pattern, right? I'm just looking to create some pattern. So you can see that pattern on there, pattern on here, even that raised paper, not a lot of paint on there. And let's try, I'm going to start with just some of this paper. So there's a couple of directions I can go from here. So I could put another layer of color over the top of this and do something kind of two-toned, or I could go in as it is and see what happens. So I'm going to try that first. Really rubbing that on there well. I want to pick up as much of that paint as I possibly can. Ta-da! Look at that. So now I have this beautiful, very simple pattern paper that would be absolutely gorgeous on clothing. Like, what a great way to create some just abstract patterns. I can even see having fun doing this one again on fabric, coming in and adding some stitching to some of those different bits and pieces. So much fun. So I think this time I want to try 2 different colors. So I'm going to come in with some of this yellow. And I'm just going to keep layering up this book page with color. Roll that off on here. I want to get that brayer nice and clean. Try to keep the colors clean in between. And I really loved the swirly pattern on this one. So we're going to try, we're just going to put this one right in the center this time. And then I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper and I'm just going to clean off the yellow around the edges of that design. And then again, this piece of paper can just become a piece of scrap paper for cleaning things off. All right, I'm going to pull that up. Ooh, yummy. Let's see, I'm going to get any paint left on that. It's so dry here, the paint dries really fast, which is great for gel printing. And then I think I want to come in with some of this. This is turquoise green, Amsterdam turquoise green. And I'm just going to go right over the top of that pattern pretty carefully. And I don't know if that yellow is going to show through underneath this turquoise or not. We can see it kind of peeking through on the gel plate. That paint may be a little bit thick on there. Speedball brayers are the best for sure. Definitely love them. So let's try some different paper here. So I'm going to try this Oriental drawing paper. It's not, what I would necessarily call a rice paper, but it's kind of similar. Let me get this up over here. And then we're going to let this sit and dry for a minute, which is why I grabbed 2 gel plates, because for something, interesting, as I'm rubbing on this paper, it's pilling up. Okay, So it's pretty fragile. So I want to give this a couple of minutes to dry here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my other gel plate while that one's drying. It's good to have multiple ones. I have friends that have given them to me. I have bought some of my own, and I'm just going to stick this one right on top for the Minette. I left the plastic thing on the bottom of this one so that it doesn't. I have been botanical printing on these, and I'm looking at them, and they have bits of plants on them. But it's definitely good to have multiple sizes, and I acquire them in different places. Again, resale stores can be awesome. I really love this neon pink. I even love this page. It's turning out to be super colorful. Like, that's a great collage page there all by itself. And let's do some florals this time. Have a couple of different florals here to try. And I'm loving these papers are embossed enough, the embossing is high enough on them. So here's the thing, if you have a like a Sizzix or a Big Shot and you have some old embossing folders and you don't know what to do with them, well, the embossing folders themselves are great for gel printing, but you could also emboss papers with some texture and then use those papers to do some gel printing just like I'm doing. So you don't have to buy pattern paper like this, but you could actually create your own textured paper. Interesting. Well, this is beautiful with the pink on it, and if we add some extra layers, but I don't know if I'm seeing the patterns as clearly in this one, and we won't know until we get some more paint on there. So with this one, let's try a little black over the top of that. Actually, I'm going to let this dry for just a second, and we're going to come back over here. It's good to work back and forth. Okay, so the paper is very thin on this one. It'll be great for collage. The yellow is there, and you can see it's super, super subtle in the color combos. So you got to play with your color combos to figure out what is going to work. I would do this same pattern again. I think I'll do it again because I love the pattern, but I'm thinking if I want it to really be that bright yellow, then I probably want some white underneath that color. So let's just try that one again, and maybe we'll do that one with, this is my favorite light olive green from Liquitex. That's probably too much paint. When there's too much paint, it takes longer to dry and it does not pull as well, has been my experience. Okay, I'm curious if I take this one that I started. This table is small for gel printing, and if I wanted just a sheer layer of color over that, so we can layer up our papers just like we can layer up on the gel print. And now I have this much more interesting than just that kind of pink and white with that green layered over the top, and that makes me very happy. So I'm creating some really lovely papers here. Okay, let's get back to, I think it was, this is the pattern. No, it's the green one. This one. And I want to focus just on that pattern. I'm going to just put this on here. Take that green off the edge. And I do that so that I can focus just on the pattern print that I want and not necessarily having that frame around the edges of it. I mean, even these pages are so much fun. So don't, discount some of the ones that are your just sort of discards or things that you use to clean your palette, because this also feels super fun. Okay, and this one is getting even more painty and grungy, which I really love. And I forgot about my pink one here, so let's just smush these in here together, which is good because these are getting nice and dry, so those layers will pull. Sorry, that's going to be glary for just a minute because of where it's sitting. So I think this one, we're just going to put a layer of white, see what we can do to pull up those flowers. And I think this one I will do in black. Black is a great color for doing gel print with, and it may be like the blue here and it might disappear. Still got a little bit of white on that brayer. No worries. I can see that yellow in between. Let's get another piece of paper here. I'm just cleaning off my brayer over to the side here. Get all that black off my brayer. I want my brayer to be clean. And then we're going to stick this one down on the paper. A lot of times when I'm gel printing, because it takes a lot of paper and so much of what I do is an experimentation, I don't know if it's going to work or if I'm going to like it, I will gel print on both sides of the paper. Okay, and I think this one, where's that scrappy bit? Let's try on this piece of muslin here and see what happens. I should do more of the fabric because that's really what I wanted to play and experiment with, and I kind of got myself a little warmed up, starting in with the known quantity, which is the paper. There's so many great teachers that teach gel printing. Carolyn Doobie is one of my favorites. Obviously, the gel print company themselves has tons of great resources, but also one of my favorites is my friend Mary Correa. Mary Correa Studios here on YouTube has some amazing different kinds of things, like whole landscape layered florals and paintings that she does on gel printing. So really love what she creates. And where's my mouse? I'm going to type her name into the chat. Why do I have to sign into chat? That's not what I want. Let me get back over here on this one. Her YouTube is Mary Correa Studios. So she is a great one to go check out for some gel printing inspiration. Getting my screen set back up here again. Sorry about that. Interesting, a little more contrast than the blue, but still very, very subtle with the colors. So I'm kind of curious, next time I'm going to do this pattern again, but I'm going to start with black and do the background of that one in a bright color and see what happens. So sometimes it's figuring out the best way to layer our lights and darks to get the patterns. Like I said, this is all such an experimentation for me. I am not an expert, haven't ever even taken any classes in gel printing. I don't think. I've just done a lot of play and experiment, a lot of learning also from my friend Andrea. This piece is also going to look really cool. Once I get all this paint layered up on this pattern, we're going to have some really interesting patterned peepers from this as well. And then next week when I am live, we will have some fun using our hand painted peepers. Groovy, love that. And so that some of the interesting depth on this one is coming back. So this by itself would make a really beautiful article of clothing or some texture on an art journal page. All right. Okay, how fascinating. So the fabric did not pull that up. It might be that I waited too long. It was too dry. Maybe it needs to be a lot wetter for gel printing on fabric. So I'm going to put a layer of black over all of this and try again. That's the cool thing about the gel print. You can just keep layering up those colors. And as you, this has some something on it, as you layer up the colors, they will continue to pull off. I also have these acrylic inks that have been sitting here from various things. It looks like there's a little piece of string on there, and wondering if, just cleaning off that brayer on some scrap paper. All right, let's try this again. Maybe it takes more paint, wet paint. This is why I always love to practice this stuff with you guys live, so you see that it doesn't come out perfect every time. I'm also very curious if I can use acrylic inks on here, or if on that plastic surface they will just kind of disappear. But I have this nice yellow, which would make a nice thin layer, and maybe that will come off on the fabric even a little bit better. A little more wet. Still smooths out pretty nicely on there, but it might interact with that paint under the edge and cause some issues. Let's see. Okay, so this is more of a lightweight, unfinished piece of canvas, raw canvas, thicker, still 100% cotton, but thicker than muslin. All right, so I can see the fabric is absorbing that paint here. Isn't that interesting? It just does not want to pick up the paint. So I'm sure there's a trick to gel printing on fabric that I have not figured out yet, but kind of loving this sort of grungy, mossy, foresty look. So it's good for getting some color, and there's just some faint little bits of that pattern, but not a lot on there. So I want to be sure and I get this gel plate cleaned off. So I'm going to get some white down there very messily. I've lost my brayer under all the things. A little bit of extra white on there this time. Get a really nice thick layer on there. I'm just going to roll that off and paint up this piece of fabric a little bit. And then I am going to take, this is just a piece of waxed deli paper. It's great for cleaning off gel plates. Now this one needs to sit and dry for quite a while, maybe even like half an hour, right? So I am going to set this gel plate aside. And if I let it dry, this was one of those tips I had to learn about being patient and let it dry. When I don't let it dry, it's not going to pick it up. But if I let this get super dry and adhere to the gel plate, it will pull all that off. So I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes. I'm going to put it aside and pull that up at the end. Let's see what happened with this one. Okay, that worked better with the acrylic ink. Fascinating. Still didn't get all of the color, but we got more of that pattern, and I actually really love. Awesome, Judy. I was going to ask if anybody had suggestions. Judy saying try a thin coat of aloe vera gel on your fabric right before doing the print. So why aloe vera gel? Which I do not have any in the studio, but I think I do have some in the house. So I'm curious. But again, I love this, gave a nice grungy, subtle effect with those acrylic inks. And I am going to do that one more time with a different color with this same pattern and see what else happens. I have some hand sanitizer down here, but I do not have aloe vera gel. So Judy, I'd love if you know to understand why that works. Okay, that was probably a little more paint than I wanted on there. And it's also a different brand, so I'm noticing that this Daler Rowney, which is usually my favorite brand, look how it sort of pulled up, but actually the Artist Loft brand did not pull away from the surface. All right, so I'm just going to clean my brayer off right on this fabric. We're just going to start getting some paint on things. And I am thinking, I saw it once used to set and spread watercolor pencils on fabric. Interesting. Matte medium might work the same way as well. So this time I'm going to put that pattern right smack in there. Try something a little bit different here. So this is a much wetter surface. Now I'm going to have to do some research on best ways to gel print on fabric because I love the way it looks and I'm sure there are some secrets to doing it. All right, beautiful. So again, it's very subtle, right? It is not as dramatic as some of the pulls that we get on paper, but I'm definitely going to cut out these two bits when they're dry and use them for something. Those are going to be beautiful. All right, I want to play with some more of this muslin. I'm even tempted to do it right over that same corner where we already had some paint on there. And I am going to come in, let's see, I'm going to come in with some of this neon pink. And that was the first color I grabbed this morning, was some neon pink, a little bright spot of happiness today. Again, use anything that you have on hand that you want to get paint down on to clean your brayer off. Like everything, it can be painted. Another thing I might try is what would happen if I put some gesso down on the fabric before printing on it as well. So I'm actually curious. So I'm going to take another spot on this fabric. I've got some just clear gesso here. On the quilt show, showing your age. That's a really oldie goodie there, isn't it? And this is going to soak right into that fabric and not spread a lot. And I'm just going to get a little bit of that clear gesso. Try to move that around, get that fabric wet first, because I'm wondering if it's going to be the same principle that Judy's talking about. I'm not even going to dry that. And let's see what happens when we do that. So that gesso went right through the fabric, so noticing the fabrics are very, very absorbent. I've been playing a lot with watercolor and acrylic ink on fabric and dyeing fabrics that way, which I really love, but you get a very abstract look, and so I was very curious about getting some more of these patterns down in some different ways and some abstract patterns. It's very sticky now because of that gesso. I'm going to let that one dry for a minute as well. Does anybody have any gel print questions? Does anybody have any gel print thoughts? There's probably some of you out there who are better at gel printing than I am, but even just with Inktense colored pencils. Yeah, Leslie, none of this is washed. That's a great idea. Some of the ones that I was doing the watercolor on definitely had sizing in them, which ended up working in my favor in those cases. But yeah, it would be very interesting to wash some of these fabrics and see if that made a difference. But we definitely have some nice pieces coming along here. I'm looking for my scissors. There we go. Not to mention that just the benefits of getting some paint and color on these. I want to just even take my brayer and add some layers of paint to these and change those up and add those layers, and I think that would be really interesting as well. Definitely loved printing on this Oriental drawing paper, which I'm going to assume is a rice paper, but we got a lot of subtle patterns over dramatic patterns except for that first one. So I think I want to do a few more on the paper of just some of these dramatic ones. I've got about 10 minutes left to play here. I'm going to try washing some fabrics and going after this again. So it picks up the color nicely, but it's not picking up all of the pattern. It is absorbing more with that gesso on there first, and I've got some nice grungy colors. So these would be great for now going back with some stamps or stencils and adding some stamps and stencils over the top of the fabric. So that would be maybe a next direction I might go with some of this. All right, Tori, are you up for some gel print experimentation when you come on Sunday? It's kind of what's on my mind right now. You might have some other ideas. All right, I'm going to get some white down on this and get this gel plate cleaned off. And I want to pick up that other gel plate and see if we cleaned off our little strings, fabric strings on there. Awesome. I don't know what it is about gel printing. Always seems more fun to do in company. And to cover the whole table with all this stuff and to really spread it out and play. Okay, I love this one. It's kind of like a pineapple-y shape. So let's do some pineapple shapes on here. And this is interesting because the color is underneath on this one. And texture is different. This one's a little more raised on this side. Those are fun. And that's definitely picking up some of the color and pattern that is underneath. And I'm going to try this on the rough side of the paper. I love I can see the patterns through. There's still some pink on this. I can see it's tinting this a little bit pink. I'm going to let that sit for just a minute. And let's see if this one is dry enough to peel off. We're going to get some of it, and it's going to be this gorgeous, grungy, picking up little bits of all of it. Look at that. That is gel plate magic. What? Okay, good luck. My husband has to head up to Fort Collins. He's shouting at me. That's exactly what I was thinking, Leslie. The deli paper and these thinner papers are usually my favorite. Look at all that little bit of crackle in there, but that ended up being a really gorgeous, gorgeous piece. And again, it's that patience of letting things really dry on there. So this one, I am going to leave all that stuff on there for the next thing that comes out. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to let that one sit for just a minute. Turned it over onto the pinky fabric. So let's play with, can we use these pieces of textured paper as stamps? Great question. Let's get some of our magenta going. So this time I'm going to put this down on the palette. I am going to ink up my brayer, and I want to get quite a bit of ink on here. I thought that was magenta. It's not. It's alizarin crimson. Really get a lot of nice ink on there. And then we're going to see what happens when we use it as a stencil. Well, you know, it's way more fun to do it in company as well than all by myself. I don't know if this is fun to watch for anyone else. I hope you're working on your own projects, but it's certainly fun to play and experiment for me. And it worked okay. The paper's almost not raised enough, but now this piece of paper is absolutely gorgeous. And so again, it's not super, super sticky on that fabric. So the next thing I want to try is to wash up some of these fabrics. I have quite a bit of it that I've been playing with, but this all on its own is really beautiful. And this also might work better to stamp on paper since we're not having tons of success stamping on. I really love this one right on the fabric. So what happens? Get some more of that alizarin crimson. And when I'm experimenting like this, I often will just go over and over the same pieces of paper without getting caught up in testing all these new things on a bazillion different sheets of paper. And eventually, I get layers that I really love. It helps save paper and avoid having just too many pieces of gel print that, I'm not going to end up using. So I'm wondering about, I think I'm going to do it this way. So I'm putting the paper on top of the fabric. Oh, I love that, Leslie. Love, love, love. With gel printing, no, I don't keep notes. That would be way too organized for me. And since this is something that's just for fun, I do if I'm doing palettes. Oh, I hope you will get it out, Judy, and send me some pictures of what you create. If I'm doing a big painting or working on, specific palettes, I might keep notes. Okay, so that's interesting. This paper totally sticking on there. And so what it ended up doing is it took paint away instead of adding paint. Great question, Judy. No idea. I think I have some scraps of linen I could play with. So fascinating. Rather than putting the red down, it picked the blue up because of the paper that I used, right? But I love that. That one came out beautiful. So by the time, we're all said and done here, we get a few really fun things. And that's what I'm looking for. Not to have all the things, but a few really fun things. And this one is so dark. I think I want to maybe put that turquoise blue or even some white on this paper again and try it on this sturdier paper and see what happens. So let's see what's happening with our erase paper. Ooh, look at that. Okay, paper more fun than fabric for me until I figure out how to do the fabric. So that picked up all the layers of colors and patterns. There's 2 or 3 different layers of patterns, so that one came out super, super magical. Really love, love, love. Okay, one more thing, and then I'm going to have to go get ready for my next thing and shift gears. And I cannot wait to play with this even more. This probably still has some red on it. I'm going to put this down here on the flat surface. Okay, might have been a mistake to put the paint right on the paper. Don't know. But now I have this pretty pink because I still had all this red on my palette. I've got some extra chunky paint in the center, and that is not what I want. Let's see, what's this one? Okay, here's just a scrappy bit. Much better that time, right? Doing that on the solid background, on the paper. Really love this particular piece of paper, is perfect for this, and that one came out quite nice. And I still have quite a bit of paint here, and I've got some extra paint. This is my problem. I get started and I don't want to stop. I'm like, no, I just want to keep playing. But I think that we can pull a lot of that off with our, I didn't even use any of the newsprint today. I think deli paper is my favorite surface to gel print on. Other people I know like other kinds of paper, but I really love the transparency and the ways that We can really layer it up. It's also really beautifully thin and works great on for collage. So that one a lot more subtle without the layered colors underneath, but it was a good way to just clean some of the paint off. And I'm probably, oops, just gonna clean my brayer off even over the top of that. So I don't clean my gel plate, but I do try to keep my brayers nice and clean so they don't end up being getting too gunky. Now this all by itself is going to make something really beautiful, and I'm looking at it. I don't have my baby wipes right in front of me, but I might come in and pull a little bit of that white with a baby wipe back out so I can get some more of that black grungy bit. All right. This one I know is going to work really well. Okay, I'm going to do one more and then I absolutely have to go for my 8 o'clock call. I think they're going to get me in my pajamas. I don't think they'll care. It's the problem with gel printing. If you start, it's addictive, and I cannot wait to turn these into some paper doll clothes next week. Again, I'm just cleaning off that brayer. Let's see. I'm going to do this. I think is going to make an amazing texture. Kind of a fun pebbly texture here. You get lots of texture on there, and now I have this pretty turquoise and green paper. And I have these fabric bags. These definitely, I know, have some sizing in them. You can hear they're crinkly. I put paper in between so they wouldn't stick together. So what if we just do a one color pull here? And I will play with fabric over the weekend and report back next week with what works. Still didn't pick it all up, but I got a little bit of that texture for that first layer, which feels really yummy. And then let's come in. I also want to play more with the acrylic inks and see what happens on the gel plate, but that will also be for another day. These textured papers would also make beautiful rubbings. Let's see, let's grab a piece of this newsprint here. Maybe just a book page. I'm looking for something small here. And I am just cleaning my gel plate off so that it will be ready for the next time I come in to play. Nothing interesting there, just some color. Picked up some of the grungy bits. And it'll still make some really interesting collage paper. So between the painting up of these textured pages themselves and some of the things that we started with, I have lots of fodder here for building up. These two definitely were my favorites, but I gotta tell ya, I am digging this black and yellow grungy look on the fabric as well. So a few fun things to play with to turn into some doll clothes. And I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Have an amazing weekend. And thanks for being here live. Thanks for catching the replay. Thanks for playing along, watching the flub ups and the successes and all my deep curiosity. So have a beautiful day, everybody. Bye bye.